Let's rock out with Cobra's greatest rock band. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring you the Dreadnoks band, Cold Slither. So this is just a one-shot comic. Right off the bat, I need to point out that this isn't in the Energon universe. This is taking place in what I'm calling the Sunbow cartoon universe. You know Sunbow, the company that created the G.I. Joe and Transformers cartoons, among many others. I want you to think of this one-shot as one big what-if episode of G.I. Joe, because this is based on the G.I. Joe episode called Cold Slither, where G.I. Joe raided one of Cobra Commander's bases and found his vast stolen fortune and took possession of it. Cobra Commander became broke because of it, and all Cobra employees had to file for unemployment benefits because of it, which was hilarious. Cobra Commander borrowed $1 million from Stinky, the owner of the bar called Stinky's Emporium, to hire Zartan and the Dreadnoks to be the face of the music video for the song Cold Slither. A music video that would have subliminal messages added throughout it by Destro, that would give Cobra the ability to control the minds of everyone who watched the video or listened to the song over the radio waves. Cobra Commander's whole goal and plan to restore Cobra's wealth was something Dr. Evil from Austin Powers would do. He used the song to lure all of America's youth to the sports arena where Cold Slither's first concert was being held in order to ransom them for $100 billion. Of course, it failed due to the G.I. Joe team's interference. That's the gist of the episode though, but you're going to see the differences and similarities between this issue and that episode. So this opens with a TV program called 20 Questions with Hector Ramirez. Now, Hector Ramirez originated and was a recurring character in the G.I. Joe cartoon. Writer Buzz Dixon created him to be a parody of the infamous journalist Geraldo Rivera. Though Sunbow never officially declared that all their shows take place in the same universe, Hector Ramirez is the character that connects Transformers, G.I. Joe, Jen and the Holograms, and the Inhumanoids because he's made appearances in each one. Even though his physical depiction in each one has slight differences, his occupation as a journalist remains the same throughout them all. He presents on 20 Questions a special documentary event. He says, "Hi, I'm Hector Ramirez, journalist, producer, and product pitchman. In my career, I've been everywhere and talked to everyone, from rock stars to robotic man trucks to subterranean lava gods. You could say I've asked a lot more than 20 questions. But there's one question even I've never asked. That question is, whatever happened to Cold Slither? Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a report that will rock your eardrums and touch your heart. Welcome to Cold Slither, The Return." He goes on to explain the history of Cold Slither, how their hit song Cold Slither was created by Destro as a way of keeping Cobra financially stable so it didn't run out of money or go bankrupt. He and the Baroness programmed an AI chatbot to generate a catchy song, but they needed a face for the music video. With a $1 million loan from Stinky of Stinky's Emporium, Cobra Commander hired the Dreadnoks to be the face of the music video. After the release of the song, it became an immediate hit. Not only did America's youth become fans, but several G.I. Joe members became fans as well. This made the leadership of G.I. Joe question the validity of the song. So they sent an assault team pretending to be groupies to the first and only Cold Slither concert to shut it down. The fans were forced to listen to a replacement that night, which turned out to be the G.I. Joe theme song. But decades later, with the rise of streaming tube networks and social media, the Cold Slither music video found new fans. He says, "The messages in the song, amplified by algorithms and autoplay features, remind us all of the greatness of Cobra." Hector Ramirez goes on to say that in time, America finally welcomed its serpent overlords with open arms. Cobra Commander-in-Chief, the new president of America, ushered in a new golden age and assigned cabinet positions to his loyal supporters, Destro, Baroness, and the Crimson Twins. So, Cobra defeated G.I. Joe and took over the world. Hector poses the question, but what became of the Dreadnoks? He says, "Tonight we'll chronicle how fame, fortune, and the pressure to record even just one more song drove apart the most influential group in music history, and ask what would it take to bring this band of vipers back together." The documentary begins with Hector Ramirez interviewing Ripper in Minnetonka, Cobra. One thing you'll notice here is that Cobra Commander renamed each state in the United States. Now, Ripper's origin began with him being the meanest biker in Grim Cape, Tasmania, to eventually a member of the Dreadnoks. He's now retired and living the chill life of suburban domestic bliss, looking like the Big Lebowski. In the interview, Hector meets Ripper's wife named Stephanie, who met Ripper when he was a part of Cold Slither and she was a groupie of the band. Hector asks Ripper if he misses the power and the band life. Ripper answers that the Dreadnoks were a group created to get mean, destroy stuff, and take ice cream money from kids. But when they were a band, they had responsibilities and kept a schedule. When it fell apart, all he had left was his underwear. The next place Hector goes to is a wedding hall in Chandler, Marzona, where Torch is still performing. Not as a member of Cold Slither, but in his own band called Torch and the Burners. Before being a part of the Dreadnoks, Torch was a juvenile delinquent who joined the Merchant Marines and became skilled with an acetylene torch. He ran chop shops and then joined the Australian biker gang, the Melbourne Maulers, which the Dreadnoks eventually absorbed. Torch's band seems to be hired not only for their ability to sing only cover songs, but also based on the physically violent entertainment they can provide. Torch smashes one of the members of his band with his guitar during their performance. After getting paid, Hector asks, "So the music didn't leave you when you left Cold Slither?" Torch answers, "I don't never leave nothing that pays this much, just for kicking up me greatest hits." And by greatest hits, he means assaulting the members of his band. Hector's next question to him is if it bothers him to only play covers of songs that aren't his. Torch argues that Cold Slither was kind of a cover song, because it was written by a machine. Hector responds to that asking, "So has anyone ever heard the real Torch?" Torch answers, "Cobra won. The fight's over. I just sell them canned anarchy so they can remember what it was like to spit in the face of authority. It's been so long, mate. The real Torch is probably out of tune." From here, Hector travels to what I'm calling Cobra University to visit Buzzer, who is a professor at the university, going by Dr. Blinken Smythe now. Before joining the Dreadnoks, Buzzer was a sociology professor at Cambridge University in England, who had extreme left-wing and anti-establishment ideas. His research into Australian biker gangs is what led him to the Dreadnoks. Hector brings up to him how he went from professor to anarchist biker thug to rock star to back to being a professor again. Buzzer reveals he changed his life, dropping years of research, his tenure to follow Zartan and see true primal anti-establishment leadership in action. And for a brief shining moment, it was epic. So we learn what caused the band to disband was Zartan, because Buzzer, in a flash of anger almost hitting Hector, calls Zartan a self-centered merc who dropped them. He mentions that if he wanted to watch smart people forget what made them great in the first place, he would have stayed in bloody academia. That leads Hector to visit the final member of Cold Slither, Zartan, who goes by Mr. Z these days and is the owner of a martial arts school. Now, Zartan is a master of disguise, able to imitate anyone he wishes to an exact physical and vocal likeness, and is an expert martial artist. So him running his own martial arts school is really not surprising. Hector mentions how he was the face of the phenomenon that was Cold Slither, and now he no longer wears it. Zartan responds that he's worn a lot of faces and been a lot of people, so why not be someone who's loved for what he does for his community? Here's the funny thing, his martial arts school is basically pay to win, or pay extra to elevate, because one of the moms with her son, a student of his, asked why he got passed over for his belt test. For those of you who didn't grow up doing martial arts, me speaking from a karate perspective, belt test is an opportunity for you to earn your next belt by being tested on knowing the form associated with your current belt ranking, as well as proficiently demonstrating you've mastered everything else you were taught to that point. You don't pay extra for that. However, Zartan tells her she has to pay for the advanced package, that her son, Little Rob, who by the way is currently picking his nose, is fiercer than most of the other students. But to truly unlock the deep secrets of mystic martial arts, that's going to be an additional $79.99 plus tip. That he's sure she understands why the extra cost, since she wouldn't want Little Rob to fall behind or get hurt. Hector points out to him that he's basically running a protection scheme and Zartan tries to deny it. When Hector reminds him that as Zartan, his job was to scam, scheme, and manipulate people using various disguises for financial gain, Zartan tries to say it's been a while since he's done all of that and that was the old him. It isn't until Hector points out to him, even if he's subconsciously acting like his old self, can he really say he's changed despite the new disguise he wears? He says, "Are you not simply running from yourself and Cold Slither?" Zartan has a moment of confusion and revelation when it comes to his Zartan, Mr. Z, and Zartan Rockstar lead man of Cold Slither identities. He hugs Hector and reveals that when he was a part of Cold Slither, all the attention and eyes of the crowds and fans on him wanting to be him confused him to the point that he didn't know who he was anymore, and he felt alone because of it. He asks how the other Dreadnoks are. That's when we transition to some time later, where Torch, Buzzer, and Ripper in their Cold Slither outfits have met up at this studio to perform on stream, all set up and arranged by Hector Ramirez. Now they all doubt Zartan's gonna show up. Torch mentions how he wrote all these songs for their new album. Zartan shows up, hiding his face with a hoodie and telling them he isn't ready to become Zartan again and won't be joining back up with the band anytime soon. Just when he's about to leave, he takes off the hoodie, revealing he was joking and that the Rockstar Zartan has returned. Hector says, "Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the world premiere livestream of Cold Slither by Cold Slither." The Dreadnoks rock out performing on stream, and the image of this is incredible. Here's the interesting thing here, is they aren't exactly singing the original version of Cold Slither. They've added some lyrics to it here, and I think it makes it better than the original. Now, after the Dreadnoks perform and celebrate, they suddenly hear explosions from outside, and when they go to check out the source of the explosions, they see civilians are burning Cobra's his tanks. When the Dreadnoks say it's an insurrection, something like that doesn't happen every day. Hector Ramirez interrupts, saying not since Cobra took over the world. Hector reveals his true identity, which turns out to be Lady J, and some of the other 20 Questions staff are revealed to be Scarlet, Covergirl, and Stalker. Lady J says, "A question, how exactly did Cobra pull it off back then?" Subliminal messages inside a highly watched Cold Slither video, augmented by streaming algorithms. Another question, does that work in the other direction too? Let's see. G.I. Joe put their own subliminal messages in the Dreadnoks performance stream. Lady J gives the signal, and every G.I. Joe member across the globe comes out of hiding and attacks Cobra, leading the new revolution to bring down Cobra's empire. At the White House, Cobra Commander is freaking out, and he says, "Destro, Baroness, get those slimy business twins. I need my cabinet." Destro replies, "Sorry, Commander, we couldn't hear you over this absolute banger." Destro then starts singing the G.I. Joe theme song. Never in all my years would I have ever thought the words "absolute banger" would come out of Destro's mouth. It's hilarious. So, Cobra Commander's cabinet has fallen to the Joe's subliminal messages. Now, citizens like Little Rob are beating the brakes off Cobra's troops, which is so funny because despite him ripping off the parents of his students, it proves Zartan is a good martial arts instructor. The real Hector Ramirez, who was working with G.I. Joe the whole time, ends the special documentary saying, "You see, this wasn't simply the story of a one-hit heavy metal band. This was the story of America, where art and commerce are ever at odds, where anthems can be twisted into propaganda, where power so often can be taken, not by those who speak great truth, but by those who control how we hear it, and where taking back our freedom is always a fight against those who would use fear, but who are so often much weaker than they appear." This has been Hector Ramirez for a 20 Questions special documentary event. Be free, America, and rock on. If you're wondering what the Dreadnoks are doing during all of this, well, they're celebrating the fact that they got back together and that they dragged the world back into chaos again. That's the end of G.I. Joe, or should I say, Cobra's Cold Slither. That's the end of the video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Check out one of these videos if you want more G.I. Joe or Transformers content. Other than that, have an awesome day, take care, rock on, and go beyond.